Okay, we're going to honor our commitment to start on time, and it's exactly 7 o'clock, and we will make every effort to close at exactly 8 o'clock or better. We would invite you to ask all the questions you want when we're done. We've got a lot of stuff to cover, and so if you'll try to make yourself a note or do whatever it might be, then we'll stay as late as you want. We had an 8 o'clock meeting with the town council, with the executive committee for this, which includes the mayors and that, and we told them, hey Gary, how are you? Good to have you. And Randall. Anyway, we appreciate you coming tonight. We're as I say, we're going to make every effort to be on time. We've got a lot going on, but we met with the council, the committee, a week ago, and everybody said, 8 o'clock at night? Why in the world? How long is this going to last? And we said we'd be done at exactly 9 o'clock, which we were 1 minute late. But nobody left till 9:30 or 9:45. So we'll stay as late as you would like tonight, but we appreciate very much you being here. The program tonight is going to be an introductory short video on water and how it works, and then we're going to have an expert in that field, and I'll introduce him when we get to that. And then at the end, we're going to give you some current events that happened as late as 3 hours ago. And so we'll give you that method. So what I'm going to do is just quickly show you this video, and we will then begin.
According to a report from the National Academy of Sciences, if a massive storm hits Earth, full recovery of the infrastructure could take up to 10 years.
This is our website. Everything we have in the past talked about and everything we talk about tonight and all the videos will be on that website in the morning. Most of it is already there. So if you get back, and I actually checked last night to see what our web count was, and we had 160 hits, and that doesn't sound like much on the web, but for Round Valley that's pretty good. Except by tonight it was over 178, so we've had another almost 20 this afternoon. So go on there and utilize it. Please take advantage of anything there. If there's anything you see tonight that interests you, you'll be able to review it again tomorrow. Everything is there, including the presentation itself. So you'll have all of that. Just one thing, now you'll notice on our front page of our website is the Ted Koppel video that many of you have seen, but most of you have not seen the newer version. And then also, on top of that, yesterday, Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General for the United States, had a 1-minute saying where Brett Baer asked her, what keeps you up at night? You want to guess what it was? Cybersecurity. So we're concerned with cyber possibilities, EMP possibilities, nuclear possibilities. There's just all kinds of things that are going on in the world today. As a matter of fact, one more of them happened yesterday. And this was, let me see if I can do that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bob. But U.S. wages cyber war against Islamic State, braces for a counterattack. And if you can't read that at the bottom, it says, one of the missions for U.S. Special Forces troops deployed against ISIS in Iraq will be gathering intelligence for American cyber commandos who are already striking the Islamic State's computer systems. The Obama administration has warned American utility companies about the danger of cyber attacks against our infrastructure, possibly as a result of the hostilities in the Middle East. Well, let me introduce to you Bob Hyatt, and he's going to give a presentation now on water capture. Well, I'm going to let him tell you all what it is. But I learned a little bit more about Bob tonight. I didn't realize my biggest impression and impressiveness of Bob was the fact that he just retired from the government. Now that excites all of you, right? Except that his job was coordinating all of the intelligence agencies in America, the CIA, the FBI, all of that, and he was the preparedness specialist for the United States of America. Okay?
Treasury, not America.
The Treasury Department through that. Anyway, he'll take. But he has done years and years and years of study in every aspect of preparedness, and he's going to give you the presentation tonight on water. I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. So this is Bob Hyatt. Give him a hand if you would. Well, you already plugged? Oh, you've already done that.
It's a pleasure to be here. Once again, my name is Robert Hyatt, and during the presentation, if you have a very, very quick question, I'll entertain it. No. You might want to wait until after the presentation if you have any complicated questions. We're going to talk about water collection, water storage, water purification, water sterilization, and a few other aspects of water. After everything's done, you're more than welcome to come up and look at some of the paraphernalia that we have on the desks up here. Most important thing is once you have water, what do you do with it? How do you get it in your house? So it's really important to have pumps, right? So you need to be thinking about that. You can get a pump for as little as $23 that you can take a shower with. Have a 5-gallon bucket of water, 1.2 gallons, and you got yourself a 4.5-minute shower. And you can have 2 buckets and have an 8-minute shower, or 9-minute shower, however that works. So don't forget about pumps. It's really important. We're going to address that in here in just a minute. I have a little clicker, so I can just click through my presentation. We talked about cyber terrorism, and one thing that was not mentioned is the fact that it's not just the sun that creates electromagnetic pulse or nuclear warheads up in the upper atmosphere. The biggest concern to the United States is an electronic EMP device. In other words, something you can put in the back of a minivan, go to Washington, D.C. and set it off. And about 20 miles would be affected by that EMP. And Russia jets, warplanes, already are putting EMP transmitters on their jets. And so what's happening is they'll fly over a U.S. warship and they'll hit the little button and it goes, and it wipes out whatever's not EMP hardened on that vessel. And it's really concerning because not only can they attack vessels, they can go to any military bases that are, not out on the sea. So it's a big concern, and so they could take an EMP device like that, take 2 or 3 of them, and position them to very close to electrical grid substations, and they could knock out 2 or 3 substations, and it would be all over. So that's the biggest concern is EMP and cyber terrorism. And if that happens, of course, then water would be problematic, and that's kind of why we wanted to talk about water first. So, of course, no electricity means no water. There's other things. If there's no electricity, obviously no internet, no food. And of course, civil unrest is going to be the biggest thing if there's no water. I like this little baby crying. We all know the water cycle, but I thought I'd just review it real quick. Basically, you got all this water out in the oceans. It all goes up in the upper atmosphere and drops down as rain. I think this is a pretty simple concept. But what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of that rain ends up in the ground and becomes groundwater. And there's groundwater, there's aquifers, there's all kinds of things going on underneath the ground that you may not be aware of. Round Valley, for some reason, the ground levels, the water table in Round Valley seems to be a little bit lower than St. John's. I don't know why, but the average seems to be around 50 feet in St. John's, 35 to 50 feet. In Round Valley, it seems to be more like 70 to 90 feet. And some people are talking about having to go down 200 or 300 feet just to hit water. That's not the depth of the well, that's the water table. And that's a real concern. But there's lots of water in the ground. Obviously, there's water in springs and lakes and ponds and all kinds of things. So be thinking about where you're going to get water, if the Schumer hits the fan. So obviously you've got lakes, rivers, wells, ponds, springs, reservoirs. I think Round Valley's got a few lakes, right? St. John's, of course, has the Lyman Lake to provide water for us. I don't know if it can go back uphill to Eager now, Valley, but St. John's will be the recipient of that water, unfortunately. So there's all kinds of sources for water, of course, wells, well pumps, getting water out, collecting water off roofs, streams, getting tarps. Have lots of tarps. It's really important to have lots of plastic tarps because it's a great collector of water if there's water problems. So this is a basic water pump for most communities in the United States that get water out of wells. You have this big honking pump on the top. It has almost like a propeller at the very bottom, and it just turns around like a propeller and it just keeps drawing water up. And because of the propeller, it can drop a lot of water, which is normally anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 inches of water coming up that pipe. And of course, in Arizona, there seems to be crappy water at the very top, and you get down about 250 feet, and you get below this bedrock, and if you go down into the 350 feet, you're getting good water. But if you go down too deep and you hit water at 600, 700, 800 feet, then it starts to get bad again. But that's the water that the power plants are drawing from, is the real deep, deep, deep water, part of the Coconino Aquifer, which is the largest aquifer in the United States, by the way. So that water is pumped from underground into large tanks. Now I found out that in St. John's there's 3 tanks, 2 of them are 1,000,000 gallons and one 600,000, so we have 2.6 million gallons of water. But I also found out that that will only supply enough water for 5 days. That's how much water is used in a 5-day period, 2.5 million gallons of water. Round Valley has Round Valley and Eager have 6 tanks between the 2 of them, and it's about the same, around 3 million gallons of water. So just remember, you're using all of that in about 5 days. So that is kind of problematic. And there are electricity is needed to pump the water up into the tanks, most tanks, not all tanks. Now in St. John's we have 1 generator. We have 3 wells in Concho that provide water, and they're just now getting 1 generator for 1 of the pumps. And I understand that Springerville has some backup generators for their water, and I think Round Valley is getting real close, or they may have 1 generator for their water. But water's going to be a big issue. Once that water is pumped with electricity up into the tank, then that tank, because it's elevated, provides the pressure pushing down, and of course then you have anywhere from 50 to 90 psi of water in your home. And that's how water is pressurized into most homes in the United States. As far as how water is used in a home, you look at toilet flushing is number 1. That's the biggest culprit. Bath and showers is about the same, around 30%. Washing clothes is around 13%. There's some other things that use water. Most of the water that's used in a home is through toilet flushing and taking showers and baths. So we're going to talk about all 3 of these things tonight: water purification and water filtration, water storage. Remember that an average person uses between 1 to 2 gallons per day. Drinking probably 1 and another gallon for sanitation. That's kind of how it works. I don't know how you can do much with 1 gallon for sanitation, but you have to think that one through. But anyway, collecting rainwater is really, really important, so be thinking about that. How are you going to collect water? You can get it off your roof, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, but having tarps is an excellent way to collect rainwater. Rainwater harvesting is gaining in popularity, but a lot of states are freaking out over it, saying it's wrecking the ecology. I don't know how that happens, but they're saying that if people take the water, then it's not naturally draining from the home and it's messing up things. I don't know. As I understand it, Utah recently passed some laws to not prevent, but make you pay if you're doing this. Arizona's thinking about it, but so far so good. Now, obviously, in an emergency situation, they're gonna be glad you have it. So get it anyway, just don't use it if for some reason it's gonna cost you too much money. So this is a picture of my tank. The continuous rain gutter right there at the Y, going to show from St. John's. I bought this tank for about $850, and with tax and stuff it was around $900. This is my next door neighbor. He's got a 700-gallon tank, and you can see there's all kinds of tanks you can get, but you just hook it up to your gutter and it fills up, and when it fills up to the top, then it drains out and goes out into the field. I'm pretty fortunate because where my tank is located, even though it's down a little bit, I'm pumping uphill, I'm able to water all of my shrubs and my garden and all that from this tank because there's so much pressure in this tank. So it's kind of nice to use. So here's the concept. Rain hits the roof, and let's see this. The figures are about 600 gallons. Most roofs are about the same size. Most houses are right around 30 feet by 50 feet, and so you're collecting about 600 gallons for an inch of water. So if you get a half inch, then you're collecting 300 gallons of water off your roof. Now remember, you got all kinds of birds pooping all over the top of your roof. You've got dust and dirt all over the top of your roof. So it's kind of nice to spend about $30 and invest in a little, a first filter, if you will, from all that stuff that's coming off your roof. It basically goes down a 3-inch PVC pipe, and at the very, very bottom of that pipe is this little ball. And as it collects all this junk off your roof, it's filling up this pipe. And when the ball gets up to the top, it seeds itself, and then the water continues on in your tank. And at the end of the rain event, you go out there, and it does have a little bleeder hose on it, and so after it's done raining, then the water will just drip out the very bottom of that. So it's a nice little device to get for $30. You can get it on Amazon, and all you're getting is this little ball and a few devices that go into the thing. But anyway, so the concept is getting water off your roof, running into a little pre-filter. It runs into the top of your tank. When your tank fills up, then of course the water has to go somewhere, and then you just run that out to your field. And of course you may want to think about getting one of these pumps that we have up here. We're going to talk about here in just a minute. But I had this little teeny pump for $60, and I've got it attached to my tank. And that tank, as soon as I turn on a faucet inside of the house, it automatically recognizes the pressure drop, and the pump turns on, and it pressurizes. Now it doesn't do it at 90 pounds per square inch like the city water, but at least it gets it up to around 40 pounds per square inch. And it pressurizes my home. So now I've got junky water, if you will, rainwater in here going through my house, so at least I can flush toilets with it. I can turn on my sink, get water out, purify it, drink it, boil it, but at least it's there. It's in my sink, it's in my toilet. Now remember, this is cold water, so you can't be taking a shower, cold shower. So that's why you want to get another pump and get a little bucket and pump nice warm water and take a shower from that. All right, so here's water sources in your home. Obviously, people know about water in tanks. It's fairly clean in the tank. Don't get water out of the bowl, get it out of the tank. You're looking at around 2 gallons, 2.5 gallons of water in a tank. Most homes have at least 2 bathrooms, so you at least have 5 gallons of water. It's not a lot of water. Lasts one person for 5 days. But there's a lot of water in hot water tanks, depending upon how big they are, whether they're gas or electric. Anywhere from 50 gallons to 300 gallons in a water tank. So there's lots of water there. There's actually lots of water in your piping that's, in your basement, attic, or below your house. There's a lot of water in there. Not a lot, but I'd say probably 5 to 8 gallons of water in the piping. The swamp coolers that are popular out here, there's probably 8 to 10 gallons in the bottom of that swamp cooler. I'm guessing it's a lot of water in there. So, can anyone else think of another water source in the home? You just kind of lost us to more water now. So, let's talk about purification. Now, what's happening with purification is that we are killing everything that could cause you harm, and, protozoa and viruses, and bacteria and all that stuff. So the best way to purify water is to boil it. Now when you boil water, you notice all the bubbles, you're taking all the oxygen out of the water. So you really need to re-oxygenate that water after you purify it. So you want to switch it back and forth, probably 10 or 15 times between some 2-quart containers or something. But get air back in it, it'll taste a lot better. There's other ways to purify water. We're going to talk about UV, which is ultraviolet light. We're going to talk about Clorox bleach. We're going to talk about pool shock, all those things. This is a little steri pen. This is kind of nice. I have one up here. All you're doing is you're putting water in it, and you're cranking this little thing. The light turns on. If that light is green, then you're cranking it fast enough. And if you do it for one minute with it on green, 90 seconds, a minute and a half, then you just turn it upside down and you can drink that water. But it's ultraviolet, and so it's light, and the water needs to be fairly clear. If it's cloudy water, then the UV light will not kill the bad boys that are in there. Also with the, now we'll talk about that in just a minute. All right, so using bleach. Clorox bleach is made from what's called sodium hypochlorite, and it's a very powerful water purifier. And it only takes about 8 drops of this stuff for a gallon, and you're basically killing everything in the water. So the idea is to take 8 drops, get some little droppers, and put 8 drops in there, and then shake it all up, and then take the lid off and let the chlorine smell go away, so you're not tasting chlorine water, right? You want to taste good water, not chlorine water. So make sure that smell is gone before you drink it. It only takes about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours to get rid of that taste for a gallon of water. If it's cloudy water, you might want to double that. That's what Clorox says, to double the drops, to 16 drops per gallon if it's cloudy.
Of course, they like to sell bleach, don't they?
What?
Of course, they like to sell bleach, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Now the problem with bleach is that people don't realize is that it degrades after time. And Clorox is basically saying at about 9 months the Clorox starts to deteriorate. And for every year after that, it loses its ability to do its thing 20% every year. So let's say that you've got Clorox that's 2 years old, and its potency is 50%, right, 40%. Then just use 16 drops versus 8 drops. It's not that big a deal. But Clorox is a good way, a very cheap way to purify water. But it doesn't last that long, so be careful of buying too much now. Now, another alternative to Clorox is what's called pool shock. And it's not sodium, but it's called calcium hypochlorite. And it's a little different, a little bit more dangerous. It's a little bit more potent of a solution. You want to get this stuff from pool places. Make sure that the active ingredient is around 70 to 80%. So you look at where it says calcium hypochlorite 78%, that's perfect because it's over 70%. I got this for $5. It's just a little bag, 1 pound bag for $5, and I bought 5 bags. So basically what you're doing is you're taking a little bit of this powder, it's not in capsules, it's actually powder, and you're making a bleach solution first. You're making that little container of bleach. All right, so 1 heaping teaspoon of this pool shock for 2 gallons of water. Now remember, we're just making the bleach. So half of that, half a teaspoon of pool shock is making a gallon of bleach. From that bleach, you're going to take a few drops and you're going to purify water. So you're just making the bleach from this, all right? So that's how you make the bleach solution. Now once you have that solution, and now you want to sterilize water, then you're taking not 8 drops, but 3 tablespoons of that solution for every gallon of water. And that'll kill everything that's in the water. What's nice about this is that the shelf life of that powder is long. Nobody seems to know how long. Even the EPA, I contacted them and they don't know how long that stuff's good for. But they're thinking it's indefinite. I don't know. But it's good to have this because one bag will filter up to like 400,000 gallons of water or something. So I have five bags, so I can filter 2 million gallons of water or something. So let's see, I can do St. John's for 2 days. Okay, this is called a UV light filter, and I did some research. Now, UV light filters are popular in fish tanks because it gets rid of all that green algae that's in there. And so they get these filters that are like 6 watts and 5 watts and 9 watts. And those aren't powerful enough to kill the things that would make a human sick. And I did some research and they said that it's got to be above 15 watts in order to kill all the harmful protozoas and bacteria and viruses that are in water. So I like this one because it's only $70. And so I spent $80 on Amazon, and this came with its light and an extra light for $80. So I spent $80, and it's up here on the table. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. But this will run ponds. So it's a lot of water that you can run through this filter, and make sure that the water that goes through there is clear, because UV light can't do anything with cloudy water. I mean, it's light. The light's got to hit the bad things in the water. So this is an alternative to purifying water. Now let's switch topics to water filtration. This isn't very clear. But this is my favorite, and I have one up here on the front. They just have these silicon filters inside of there. These will filter about 100 to 150,000 gallons of water. And you can get these filters and off the internet, and you can make your own little filtration system. You just get 2 food grade buckets. Home Depot has them. The orange bucket at Home Depot is food grade. You want to look at the bottom of the bucket, and if it's got a little triangle on there, it says 2, and then it says what is it, folks? HTTPS or something. On the very bottom, then it's food grade. So it's got it has to have the triangle, the 2, and those little 4 symbols on there. And then you're just putting it in the bottom of the bucket, drilling a hole. You get these filters off of Amazon for $100. And get the buckets for $5 a piece or $3 a piece at Home Depot. You got yourself a water filter for 150,000 gallons of water for about $115. So it's a good way to filter water. Now, water can't just be drinkable. It's got to taste good too. So I bought this little housing unit from Home Depot for I think it was $14.95, and you just get these carbon taste filters and for like $10 a piece, and you put it in there and you just run water through that, and it comes out tasting great because it's a carbon filter, and the carbon in there is not the carbon that from a fire pit. It's similar, but it absorbs things. And as water goes through it, it's sucking all these little things through its pores, and it's collecting it, and it makes the water taste better. So whenever you get a water filter, all these water filters that you see, this is one from the LDS Church. Just has a little microbacterial filter in there. I just buy extra filters because they're only $6 a piece. Put a little hose on it, and you got yourself a straw, versus spending $20 or $30 at a sports store and get those little teeny straw thing you saw it on there. So it's a great little straw filter. Be sure to take off the little paper that's on the bottom, right? Do that. But what's inside of here is the carbon, and that's what makes the water taste good. Now, St. John's has a lot of water, but it tastes terrible. Round Valley water is much better tasting, as I understand it, than St. John's. So we have more water, but yours is better tasting. But yours is hard to get to because it's lower. whatever, we'll somehow figure this all out. You can make your own water filter. Get these little coffee filters, are great. You can get a package of 250 of them for $15, $16 from Walmart. Because you just never know if you're going to need to filter water from a pond or a stream or something. But you can make your own. You can use these filters and add sand and add a little charcoal from your fire pit, and essentially you can make your own filter. Now you can get water also by distillation, and it's through evaporation. The water doesn't taste very good, but you can aerate it and it'll taste better. You can get water out of a well. This is a well pump that I designed in Virginia. This is a neighbor down the street. I moved from Virginia to St. John's, the highest income per capita county in the United States, to the third lowest. But anyway, so this is just a PVC pipe that goes down about 50 feet, and he's happy as can be. And when he's not using it, he just unplugs this little sidearm here, and he puts a little cap on the end, and he just covers it with a little rag, and nobody knows it's in front of his yard. But some limitations with that, about 80 feet is the lowest that I've done. It may go lower, but I just haven't installed any other pumps that low. We're going to talk about the simple pump here in just a minute. But basically what the kit is it's just all the components that you need except for the piping that you get from Home Depot. So you just buy the kit from me. I only make $20 profit off this kit because my cost is $55. So $75 for the kit. You get some piping from Home Depot and you got yourself a well, but it's not going to work here in Round Lake because your water's too low. But anyway, you can obviously dig your own well. Now I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's actually a person down there at the very bottom of this 30-foot well, and no roping, so I don't know what he's doing down there, but he's still digging away, I guess. But most water is found at around 25 to 40 feet, and so a lot of wells back east, they just literally dig them out and go down about 30 feet, and water starts coming in, you got yourself a well. But you don't want to go down 300 feet. Now this is it's called a simple pump. Pretty pricey, but it can go down, I was told, up to 300 feet. So if you have water at 250, you could buy this. It's going to be quite pricey though, because this setup here is $1,600, and this is only for 100 feet. So if you went down 150 feet to water, you're probably looking at about $2,000 to get a manual water pump. So I think the best bet would be to just get lots of water filters, and like this little device up here at the top, and just go out to the lakes that you have and get your water and run it through filters rather than spending $2,000 to get a pump. Of course, if you have the money, do it. Anyway, don't forget about pumps now. As I mentioned before, I have this little pump here, and you can run these things dry, which means if there's no water running through it, it'll just keep going and you won't ruin the pump. But it pumps about 1.2 gallons per minute. And the other pumps that provide pressure for the whole house run about $50, $60, $70, $80. So I think that's it. Oh, this presentation is on the website, so go to, is it Round Valley Concerned Citizens?
RVConcernedCitizens.com.
RVConcernedCitizens.com. Thank you.
There are a lot of things going on right this minute, and what I'm going to do is show one more video to you. The two things we've talked about already were basically cyber attacks and some EMP things. We're going to go one step further here for you.
North Korea loves to threaten all-out war.
Two things happened in the last 30 days. What was the first one?
Nuclear bomb detonation.
They said that it was a hydrogen bomb. It was January 16th. Actually, that's 45 days. But January 16th they set off, and it definitely registered on all the seismic graph all over the place, and so we know they blew up something. Doesn't matter particularly what it was. And then what happened on February 7th?
Launched the satellite, we think.
Well,
Put a satellite in orbit.
I'll tell you,
They attempted to put a satellite.
I talked with the Pentagon yesterday, and they did put a satellite up. I'm going to show you that. But all of this, everything that we've talked about tonight, relates specifically to water. Because what happens if the power shuts off?
No water.
The first video that we showed talked about pumping it to the tanks and then purifying it. Do we do that here in Round Valley? Yeah, we pretty much do. You talk too much about St. John's. We don't care about St. John's. But we do. They'll come over to see us if they don't get set up. But if you look, this was in Spacelight 101, which is a military-related thing, but it says controversial rocket launch. North Korea successfully places satellite in orbit. Saturday night, which was the 7th, they put something up there. And they hailed the launch as a complete success. The Earth observation satellite entered an orbit at 494 to 500 kilometers. That's important. They did do that, and we know that our military has shown that it has happened. In case you're not quick at conversion tables, 500 kilometers is 310 miles. So that's the height of that satellite going around the world. Every 100 minutes, it circles the world. But the satellite North Korea fired into space on Sunday is tumbling in orbit and incapable of functioning in any useful way, a senior U.S. defense official told CNN. So, that thing up there that they said was supposed to look at America and go around there and, spy on us, sort of, it's tumbling. So it's no good, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, let's look at that a little bit. U.S. and South Korea to start military drills amid tensions with North Korea yesterday. Okay, that's pretty current. South Korea is worried about that. And so this is what they said, and I don't know if you can read this, but they threatened to carry out attacks on mainland America if the U.S. carries out its planned military drill, and it's a big one. Okay, and they started yesterday, and it's supposed to go for 8 weeks. And so North Korea basically, and every bit of this is on the website, so you'll be able to see every single word we said tonight will be there tomorrow morning with pictures and everything else. South Korea, I'll read it on here.
Drills
You can't
will
read it.
involve
Okay.
15,000 U.S. troops.
Yeah, but it says, North Korea has threatened to attack mainland America if the U.S. carries out a planned military drill with South Korea. Did you hear in that one video where the CNN lady said they threaten America several times a week? Have you noticed that in the past? What does that remind you of? Y'all know the parable of crying wolf? And then what happened? It actually happened, but nobody believed them. Well, let me give you something to think about, and I hope to goodness this isn't true. You remember this guy in our first meeting, Peter Vincent Pry, executive director of Congress? He's the guy that said that we'd lose 30 million people in the first 30 days if America's power went out. Okay, but he said one more thing. He said that a year and a half ago, North Korea did a practice drill with a satellite that orbited straight over the top of the United States. Okay, and they proved they could do it. Well, less than 30 days ago, they launched that tumbling satellite, and these are the flight paths. That's the actual, what the government has said where that goes. It goes at 310 miles, and the far west one goes over the border of Missouri and Kansas. Any of you know the geographical area that is?
That's center right of the country.
It's the center point of America. This is an EMP diagram, and if you can't see it very good, it says that the optimum altitude to set off an EMP is 300 miles, and it will cover all of North America. Now, instead of a spy satellite that's going along not taking pictures of America, when I said I talked to the Pentagon yesterday, and it wasn't the Pentagon, it was a very close relative of mine. But you know in there where they said North Korea was developing the miniaturization of nukes? That was 5 months ago. They have that already. It is there. What if there is a nuke in that tumbling satellite at 300 miles? Every 100 minutes it circles the Earth, and at any point in time, if there is one, they could push a button, and that could shut off America's power. Now, I'm not here trying to tell you that that's going to happen. I'm not ready for that one yet. But have you noticed there are a lot of things going on? Have you seen that? I'm going to show you a 30-second video. This was today.
This is a Fox News alert. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has just instructed his country's military to be ready to use nuclear weapons at any time. North Korean state media reports Kim made the statement in what it called the face of a growing threat from enemies.
Now, forget that. You've got Iran, you've got North Korea, you've got ISIS, you've got all these things. I'll go back to our original premise. Is it possible that Round Valley could have an isolation event? Is that a possibility?
Power station here.
Should we not prepare? Now, I had an inspiration today, and next week's, where did that one go? Here we go. Next month's presentation is on food. The three most important things for humans are what? Air, water, food. Can't control the air much. But water, I will just encourage all of us to have a plan to do that. And you can't read that, so I'll read the top of it to you. It says, Arizona Department of Water Resources Well Registry. There are 383 wells in Round Valley. We have no clue how many of them work. The vast majority of them are through electric pumps. But I know the city of Eager Town Council went out and got three hand pumps. We've got definitely a water spring that can flow downhill, and if we can retrofit and try to encourage as many humans in this valley to get hand pumps, then that will be a tremendous help. And we're pushing that as hard as we can. So if you have well or access to one, we strongly encourage you to figure out how to get a hand pump, because water is number one. But as far as we can tell, we think there are quite a few available that we can make work, and that becomes less of a problem. We think the biggest problem in all of Round Valley is going to be food. Because how many percent, now there's approximately 7,000 people in Round Valley, how many of those have a storage of food? 30% maybe? 3%? Who knows? I mean, if they got it, they're not going to tell you. But we know that it's over half. Over half of the people in Round Valley couldn't last a week on the food that they have on hand. And so our biggest concern is food at this point, because we are solving the water problem. We may not be super, and we really appreciate Bob tonight, because there's some really good things that you learn. But if we can truly provide food, now I'm going to suggest something to you. Can you read this right here? and we're gonna approach this next week. But this is a case of non-fat dry milk. There's some refried beans, there's some pinto beans. If we have every adult in Round Valley donate 1 box of food, we can support all of the people in Round Valley that don't have it, and we'll encourage them to do it as well, because they're gonna be the ones that don't have it. But you need to increase your own food storage reserve, and once we find the place that we can put this, and we're looking very seriously, hopefully, at doing it in the post office basement. That's where we'd like to see it. But I'm gonna start tonight and commit 2 cases for my family, and we're gonna encourage every one of you and every citizen in Round Valley to donate a case of food per adult. We're gonna change the schedule of the meetings coming up. On the website, it says water, food, and then it says, I've got it on here somewhere. Fuel. If we can coordinate this, and we're gonna head it up, and I'm gonna work with Dennis on it, and this morning, I had an inspiration that was stronger than anything I've ever had. Now, Dennis, I always heard that the definition of inspiration, that the Greek word was God within, and he corrected, well, didn't correct me, he just gave another definition of the Greek, which says God breathed within you. Whatever it is, this didn't come from me, but I have been extremely concerned about the food situation in Round Valley if something happens. Not for those in this room probably, because you have a preparedness-minded mentality. But if we are to keep the people who, well, again, I'll ask you the question. If you had small children and had no food, and after 3 or 4 days and your children were starving to death, what might you do after you've begged and pleaded and all that? Whatever you probably could to provide for those kids. So we're just going to suggest that we're going to ask you, encourage you, whatever, to somehow or another come up with, and there's tons of ways to do it, and we'll provide all that, and especially in the next meeting. But that will solve the necessity for providing for those who don't prepare, so that they're not at our door with guns and with whatever else. So we will do that on the next time. Thank you for being here tonight. We now open it. You're welcome to leave, but we'll open up for questions for Bob, or we do have, I've got an email list over there. If you haven't gotten an email from us in the last 7 days, and we share this email with no one, that's the second thing I'm doing, and then there's the third. But that if you haven't gotten an email from us, please sign up. That no one else will get it. It's not public, and we always send it blind carbon copy. So when we send out a mass mailer, it's no addresses. So it's over there on the counter, and if you want to stay in touch and everything, please sign that. Secondarily, Dennis has created a tremendous flyer that is right here, and you can't read that, but it's over here. We've got copies, 1 per family. But in essence, he said, well, you want to read it?
Nah.
Okay. It just says that we have a serious consideration here, and he's directing through the churches and through different civic groups of a communication and what's there, and trying to get a baseline of what everybody has at this point. So he's going to be coordinating that, and we have a copy of this, and it's very good. We recommend you get one of those over there on your way out.
And fill it out and bring it back, or get with me and I'll get it.
Okay, it asks you basically where you think we are personally and as a county.
I'd like to put my name out. I have a rainwater recovery system, and I have about 18,000 gallons of water.
Okay, we'll all be at your house when this happens.
That's fine.
Okay.
But we're missing a lot of sources of water that you haven't mentioned. If anybody would like to talk to me about it, my name is Ray Trail, and my phone number is 928-245-5682.
Anybody that is interested, please get with Ray right after this and take his name, because we're all interested in more sources. So,
I've been working on this for about 5 or 6 years.
Monica had,
2 things quickly to share. Anyone in this room that does have a well on your property, finally, next week is National Groundwater Awareness Week. I printed about 15 copies of this that are on the table over here. If you're interested, go ahead and take a flyer for your well. It's just basic common sense on how to keep it it from becoming contaminated.
Okay.
And secondly, did anyone else hear on the national news this morning on the radio with my breakfast, I heard that the entire electric grid across the entire country of Syria was knocked out by a cyber attack.
I didn't hear that, but that's interesting. A nuke EMP? Okay, Stan has a,
For those of you who are interested in using the pool shock method, there's one thing you need to know. As Bob said, that this stuff is really quite dangerous if you mishandle it or don't store it correctly in that. This is from using calcium hypochlorite to disinfect water preparedness advice blog. One word warning, do not under any circumstances acid in solution with a pH less than 6. The result will be free chlorine gas, the stuff that killed soldiers in World War I. You will die a horrible death. You're not trying to scare them.
no.
You will die a horrible death within minutes from pulmonary edema. But since, here's the key statement. But since the water supply you will be working with usually, keyword, usually, has a pH of 7 to 8, this is not a problem. I don't know about you, but if the word usually is used, I got these from Leslie Pool Supply in Phoenix. I ordered them and had them ship them up to me. These are 50 test strips to tell you the
pH, yeah.
free chlorine, alkalinity, the pH, which is your measure of its acidity, and the cyanuric acid, which is a stabilizer. This one just has a strip. This one has strips, plus it has a manual. So what do you do if it's out of range? What do you do to bring it within range? And these are worthwhile if you're going to use pool shock.
And dangerous pipes to throw out.
Yeah, well, there's that actually the bathroom, if I remember right, it was chlorine,
Ammonia.
Bleach, so it was bleach and
All right, we're officially closed if any of you need to go, but we'll stay for questions. We'll do whatever you want to do. And thank you all for coming. We're grateful for your attendance. The next meeting is April the 7th. April 7th. But it's on the website. And if you're already on our email list, you'll get a reminder. If you're not, please sign up. Right.